Hello, everybody. Chad Eves here, and we're going to talk about different aspects of praise, of positive reinforcement. It's one of those things where every couple of years there is a study that comes out talking about how people don't feel like they're appreciated at work. A lot of times it's not done within the scope of the entire work experience. When you're talking about comp, other benefits, promotion opportunities, sometimes just that very specific target. And it's important, but it can sometimes be part of a bigger picture. There is a study out, there'll be a link to it in the show notes that was highlighted in Business Insider talking about how roughly about 50% of people didn't feel like they were valued by their organizations or their supervisors or leaders. And it brings up the question of why does this keep happening over time? It's probably been going on since the beginning of one person working for another one, where someone didn't feel appreciated. But what's the break point? And how do we make that difference to where we don't see this being a perpetual weakness in workforce leadership? With the pandemic, one thing to keep in mind, whether it's from business or other societal issues, what it did was really it magnified issues. So as we went over the hump of the pandemic and places were opening back up, companies were doing business again more, we saw the Great Resignation. And the pandemic magnified stuff that was going on. So leading up to the pandemic, prior to that and into it, people were probably not feeling that they were not being appreciated in their jobs. Two of the primary reasons why people left their jobs during the Great Resignation was that they did not feel like their contributions were valued or that they belonged at that organization. A lot of that is directly impacted whether or not someone is getting positive reinforcement that they're doing a good job. Is this something new? No. But what happened was, especially with the pandemic, is it kind of bottled it up. It was already happening. It bottled it up. And people, this was the first thing at this scale, people determined what the value of their job was. And they assigned a number to it. And employers were not prepared for this. A lot of them probably anticipated people were just going to be happy to get back to the way it was or close to the way it was, versus people went through a lot of soul searching during the pandemic. There was the concern of catching the COVID or bringing it home to loved ones, dying of it themselves. And no matter how much praise people were getting leading up to that period or during the first half of the pandemic until the peak, that's not going to matter when people are fearful of their life or for their loved ones. And when they weren't getting it, it just stacked up on top of everything else. So when businesses opened, people had made the decision, I get paid X number of dollars of this job, it ain't worth it. It doesn't meet my needs, my expectations, my employer doesn't care or whatever, or I can do better somewhere else. And you had about 50 million people in the economy switching jobs. Could that have been mitigated by companies that lead their people in a way that they recognize contributions, that they give them praise for doing that job when they deserve it, not just willy-nilly? Probably. And there's probably a lot of organizations that weathered that out pretty well. The ones that didn't were probably more susceptible to losing people. And when people made that decision of what their job was worth to them, whether it's from a financial perspective, a personal risk perspective, whatever it might be, it was over. The employers had a chance to correct leading up to that, and too many of us were focused on how do we get back to normal, not what we're doing wrong in normal that is going to impede our future, impede our next steps. Now, the one constant factor that is there throughout this topic, and it's been a chronic topic, it's existed for as long as one person has worked for another one, has been the leader. It comes down to the people in leadership positions. Do they value the work that's being done? Do they praise the people around them doing the work that are worthy? And are they modeling that behavior for other leaders, other more junior leaders, and other people in the organization? too often, sadly, I don't think that's the case. At least from these studies, at least half the people don't feel like that's the case. And saying that someone's doing a good job, that has value, but following it with action, recognizing people in front of other people, maybe some kind of incentive being awarded, whatever it might be. But a lot of times it's just that word, it's just that recognition of thanks. And that can raise the performance of everybody. It raises the performance of the leader by recognizing the people that are working around them. But also it gives the green light to other people to copy that behavior. Oh, the manager's doing this, the director's doing this, the CEO's doing this. It's okay for me to do. Maybe it's even expected of me to do. It needs to be a behavior that is modeled and repeated so that people see, oh, it's okay to do, and they can begin modeling it and repeating it and break the chain. Because one of the things that's probably happening is as people get promoted and move on to different opportunities, different organizations, you start getting this discontinuity of leadership, whereas you may have someone that was doing it, but you have a break in the chain when that person leaves and no one else is doing it. So that's why it's really important in an organization to get that replication, that repeating behavior, that modeling of everybody in the organization, which leads me to say this. There's nothing saying that someone who is more junior can't tell someone more senior, thank you for doing something. To show them praise for what they did, to show them appreciation for something that they did. Maybe it was something that impacted them directly, personally. Maybe it was a project that meant a lot to them, that they were a member of, that they helped make happen, whatever it might be. Because everybody likes to hear thank you. Everybody likes to know that something they did was appreciated. So we can go 360 degrees. There's nothing saying you can't thank anybody else in the organization. It doesn't have just to be a top-down thing. And a matter of fact, it shouldn't be just a top-down thing. So think about praise as you move forward. Do it once a day. And this is one of the things that really steps in our way of doing this is people get busy, they have other priorities, they're trying to get stuff done. Once a day, find something that someone has done that's good and that you appreciate. It doesn't have to be in the office. Definitely that will help you from a career perspective. It can also be out and about in the world, in your neighborhood, business, in society in general. But try and do it at work. Just tell one person a day what you appreciate and why, and thank you. You might be surprised by the benefits that yields and just how much better it makes you feel. I'll be back with our next video. Take care. This is Chad signing off.